Hi, I'm Poppy, and for the last 4 years, I've been traveling around the world filming my adventures about different people and culture, and then COVID hit. Now, we can approach this pandemic in two different ways. One, we can look at it as something negative that causes a disruption to our lives and wait for things to go back to normal. When COVID's over, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and then my life will be amazing. Or we can look at option two and look at it as something as kind of a positive thing in our lives. It's something that makes us get creative and make us do things that we wouldn't normally have done otherwise. In other words, you can look at it as something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, and rather than thinking in the future, you live in the present and you focus on how can I make my life amazing now, instead of in the foreseeable future, which we have no idea when things are gonna go back to normal, if they're even gonna go back to normal. So, which option do you prefer? Be negative and wait, or be positive and seize the day now? If you go with option one, I don't know why you're on this channel. If option two, then stick along for this video because I'm gonna talk to you about how I've been staying very positive throughout this whole crazy madness of the world, and how I'm still living my life and not letting COVID take the best of me, but rather looking at COVID as a way to push me on new adventures. This channel is all about having a positive outlook on life, and that's not an easy thing to do. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I am saying that I do my very best to try to live in the present and focus on the good things I have in my life. My life's not perfect. My travels have not gone perfectly. Trust me, you can check out other videos. I've had a lot of bad and crazy things happen to me over the years, but I've never let it get me down, and rather I've actually used those moments to help me grow. And that's what I'm doing right now with COVID, and that's how I have escaped lockdown. So what does that mean, I've escaped lockdown, and how can you too also escape lockdown? So let's trail back to the beginning of the year in March. That's when I feel like COVID kind of just blew up, right? So at the time I was living in Melbourne, Australia. I had been there since September, so that's what, 8 months? My math could be wrong there. At that time, I just kind of had this feeling that things were about to change very rapidly. I'd been kind of following the news, and I was like, I feel like I need to move out of my apartment. So I was on a lease there. I had bought all this furniture. I was like properly moved in and based in Melbourne. And I was just thinking like, I think I need to get out of here. I think I need to go back to living out of my backpack. Like, things are about to get crazy. Literally in the span of, I don't even know if it was a full week, I found somebody to take over the lease, transferred it, sold all my furniture, moved out, and then moved into a friend's place. This was literally from like a Sunday to a Friday. And in between this time was when like the borders shut, lockdown started happening. My anxiety, let me tell you, was through the freaking roof. So I'm on the visa 462 to Australia, the working holiday. So that means I can be here for a year, but that expires in August. Do I want to extend it a second year? If you want to extend it a second year, you have to do 3 months or 88 days of farm work. Now, at the time, I didn't really think that I was gonna do that. No, I was never gonna do farm work. But then all this started happening, and I started thinking like, I'm gonna do this farm work so that I can stay here a second year, because I don't think anything is going to be fixed anytime soon. I worked on a potato farm for 2 months. Absolutely awful. 12-hour days, no days off, some pretty crazy living conditions. I lived in like this shack of a farmhouse with 7 girls. There was like rats in the house, electricity constantly going out. Pretty hardcore, I'm not gonna lie. But I made it, and then I ended up doing 2 weeks of tree planting, which was even harder than the potatoes because it was very physically demanding. As I mentioned, you have to do 3 months to be eligible for a second year visa. So I was almost done. I had done 2.5 months. I just needed 2 weeks left, and this is where the universe got in the way again. I was at my tree planting job, and then on my lunch break I saw the news that they were shutting the border between Victoria and New South Wales, effective immediately in less than 24 hours. They projected 2 months, but you never know, it could be longer than that. A few weeks prior to that, I saw this post on Facebook by this guy Marvin, who had this massive like decked out truck that he was living in, and he basically asked if anybody wanted to join him on a trip going up New South Wales. He was like, yeah, if you want to come on the trip, it'd be great. We were not planning to leave for a few weeks, and then they said they were shutting the border. And so I got a message from him on my lunch break saying, hey, borders are shutting. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Either you're in or you're out. What? Does this mean I have to quit my job? I need to move out of my apartment, pack up all my stuff, like go with you who I don't know and all these random people and just go for it? Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Got home from work, I quit my job, packed up my stuff, went straight to the train station, met up with him, and then took off and ended up a month and a half with like all these people I'd never met, driving in like a convoy, so a bunch of vans heading up the coast of New South Wales. It was definitely an adventure I will never ever forget. I will link above a video to that. You can check out a little bit of like the highlights of that trip. But after that like month or so being together, I still needed those 2 weeks left of farm work to complete my visa because it was just so chaotic and we were constantly on the move. I left myself 2.5 weeks to finish 2 weeks of farm work, which is really dumb. One of the problems was I was tied to this truck and I didn't have my own transportation, so it was hard for me to go out and find a job. I started thinking like, I'm gonna get my own van. Like, I want to have my own space. I want to be on my own time. So I decided to actually buy my own camper van, which I never thought I was ever going to do. I will link the video above here. You can check out that video. I was super clueless when it comes to buying a van or car, anything. It was pretty ridiculous. But anyways, decided to buy the van. Had it now for, I think it's been a month, and it's been awesome. This is one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. Anyways, recently I've been getting quite a few messages from like close friends who've just been watching like my Instagram stories or whatever. And they're a little bit like frustrating messages of, oh, you look like you're living the life. Like, you're so lucky you're in Australia. You're so lucky you have this. You're so lucky, blah, blah. And it's been kind of pissing me off in a way, just because I'm like, hold up. I'm not lucky. I just decided to put myself here. I decided to put myself on this adventure and to take on these new experiences. I did this. Yeah, I'm sure there's a bit of luck in the process, but it was all because I was like, being proactive and I'm gonna do this, this, and that. And no, it has not been perfect. In fact, the truck that I was living in and the convoy, it fell apart. We are no longer traveling together. There were some disagreements that went on, and unfortunately, like, I'm not friends with all the people. So no, my life is not perfect. I appreciate everything we had and all the adventures, but it has not been perfect. But I'm just choosing to really focus on all the good things I have in my life. And so one of the things I've realized is having this van has really been an escape from COVID. So I want to dive into what this van, how this van has helped me escape the lockdown. So I pretty much narrowed it down to 7 reasons. There's a lot more than that, but I'm just going to stick to 7 for the purpose of this video. So number 1. Self-sustainable. When you have your own camper van, you are not dependent on anyone else or any place, and you're self-sufficient. So depending on how decked out your van is, you could have everything from solar power energy to a full-on garden in your van if you wanted. You could have your own, you could be growing your own fruits and vegetables. Like, you can do crazy things to this van to be completely self-sufficient and not rely on anything else except maybe a few trips to the store and the petrol station, but that's about it. Number 2, it's affordable. Guess what? When you live in your camper van, it's usually free rent. Now, I say usually because it depends if you find places to park for free, which can be one of the challenges, but for the most part, you are not paying rent. And depending on how much you bought your van for, vans, at least in Australia, are quite cheap. My van was only 3,500 Aussie dollars, which is about 2,500 USD. And then also, you end up being a forced minimalist, so all you can have is what fits in your van, so you really can't be buying a ton of things. Number 3, open space. If you want to self-isolate, if you want to escape people, if you want to escape COVID, the van is like the perfect place to do it. You could literally drive off into the middle of nowhere and be completely by yourself if that's what you want. Think about like traveling. You want to go see a waterfall, a cool beach or whatever. Like, there's not really that many people out these days. You can have it all to yourself. So that's one of the advantages, if anything. Number 4, you are constantly learning. I can't tell you how close I was to buying a van. It's actually like a bit embarrassing. I had no idea where to look for a van. Literally didn't know how to physically buy it. I didn't know anything about the mechanics of a car. Recently have learned now like what spark plugs are and how important it is not to break them. Jackson, what have you done?
Broken a spark plug.
I'm sorry, what?
Broken a spark plug. Actually, correction now, broken 2 spark plugs.
Walked away in shame. If you break your spark plugs, you can't move the car, like it's donezo. So I've learned a lot about the mechanics of the car. I've learned about like all the things I could do to deck out my van. I plan on cutting a hole in my roof. No idea how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna learn it. But yeah, it's just a constant learning journey. Number 5, constantly out of your comfort zone. Now, I personally, that's kind of what I've been chasing with travel in general, is I love to be pushed out of my comfort zone because I know when I am, it makes me grow and it puts me on some crazy adventures that I never would have expected or could never have planned. For me, a lot of it is just the struggles. I keep mentioning this, but it's kind of been a theme in my life, is where do I park? No idea. Where do I meet people? Where do I meet people was actually one of my biggest concerns, and one of the reasons I think I never even considered van life, but I've been meeting people and it's just not in the way that I expected. And it just makes you open to new adventures because you're kind of in this like fragile state that anything that comes by, kind of, you feel ready to go on that adventure. You don't really need to plan anything. If somebody's like, oh, let's travel 2 hours north to go look at this waterfall and camp out, great, you can go. And so you're very like easy to move. Number 6, discovered the joy of aloneness versus loneliness and sadness. Depending on if you're traveling with other people, like you are going to find yourself alone. So I'm very extroverted. I get my energy around being around other people. So when I spend too much time alone, I do kind of freak out. But being in this van has actually kind of helped me with that because it's helped me enjoy my own company because I have so much control. I have so much control to go and do all these different things. I've got the transport. I've got my house with me. You just make the space your own. That's something that's really been nice. Is like I feel like this is my creative space, is my creative house. You know, when you're traveling and all you want is to go back home and sleep in your bed, well, your bed is now in your van wherever you go. So it's actually pretty freaking nice. But yeah, you learn to enjoy your own company and you learn to have fun on your own and just enjoy your alone time. And the last one, number 7, is finding a life outside of COVID-19. You are literally being forced to live in the present because you need to be constantly like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And it's very much like live in the now. And that to me is the answer to escaping lockdown, is to live in the present moment and stop thinking when COVID ends, when this pandemic ends, I'm gonna do this, this, and that, and my life will be amazing, because we don't know when it's gonna end. And even when it ends, it's not necessarily gonna go back to normal. What is normal? Personally, I think it's gonna look different. Imagine how strong you will be if you can focus on loving your life now. How strong are you gonna be when things do start to kind of go back to how they were? So there you have it. Van life has been my solution to escaping lockdown. I'm not saying you have to do van life to escape lockdown, although I do highly recommend that you consider it, just because I think it's like one of the perfect times to do it. Really, what I want you to take away is that the answer to escaping lockdown is all dependent on you and your attitude, and not be looking into the foreseeable future, but looking in the now, looking at what can you do now to enjoy your life and not feel like you're trapped, not feel like you are in lockdown. You might physically be in lockdown, but you can get creative what you can do in your house and how you can still enjoy your time. You know, pick up things that you want to learn. Maybe start a business you've always wanted to start. Maybe become a YouTuber. I can't stress this enough. This is the most important time to grow. This is how I've grown from travel. It's from the challenging moments. COVID can also be a blessing in a way, because maybe a lot of people needed to be pushed, and it's a wake-up call, and it's a wake-up call to tell you that you need to push harder, you need to get creative, and you need to do things differently. You could even look at it as, what do you have to lose? Everything's going down anyway, might as well try something new. Don't let this pandemic stop you from living your life. You can still have an amazing life. It's all about you and how you perceive it and how you choose to go about it.